Hello and welcome to Wisdom Forge. How your stress is genetically ruining your children, science explains. The hidden inheritance: stress changes more than your mood. When we think about passing traits to our children, we usually picture eye color or height inherited through DNA. But groundbreaking research reveals a startling truth: your experiences with chronic stress can actually modify how your genes work and pass these changes to your children and even grandchildren. This isn't science fiction but the science of epigenetics, where environmental factors like stress create biological markers that attach to your DNA like sticky notes, changing how genes are expressed without altering the genetic code itself. These modifications can predispose future generations to anxiety, depression, and stress sensitivity before they even face life's challenges. Epigenetics: the bridge between your stress and your children's genes. Epigenetics acts like a dimmer switch for your genes, turning them up or down in response to life experiences. When you endure prolonged stress, your body creates chemical tags that latch onto specific DNA sequences, particularly genes related to stress response. These tags remain like molecular scars long after the stressful event passes. During conception, some of these marked genes can transfer to your offspring, giving them a heightened stress sensitivity from birth. This explains why children of traumatized parents often show exaggerated fear responses. Even when raised in safe environments, their genes carry the echoes of their parents' stress. The cortisol footprint you leave your children. Chronic stress floods your body with cortisol, the primary stress hormone that reshapes your biology in surprising ways. Elevated cortisol doesn't just affect you, it triggers epigenetic changes in your reproductive cells, eggs, and sperm. Studies show children conceived during periods of high parental stress inherit a cortisol regulation system already tuned to expect danger. Their bodies may overproduce stress hormones in situations that wouldn't faze others, creating a biological predisposition for anxiety disorders. This explains the heartbreaking reality that stressed parents often unintentionally pass on their stress responses before their child's first breath. War studies: how trauma echoes across generations. Powerful evidence comes from studies of populations that endured extreme stress. Children of Holocaust survivors show distinct epigenetic markers on stress-related genes, even when raised in peaceful environments. Similar patterns appear in descendants of war veterans, famine survivors, and victims of abuse. Their grandchildren often display heightened stress responses without direct trauma exposure. These findings reveal how severe stress writes itself into family biology, creating generational ripples of anxiety and depression that can persist for decades after the original stressful events ended. The womb is a stress conductor. A mother's stress during pregnancy doesn't just affect fetal development, it actively programs the baby's stress response system. Stress hormones crossing the placenta teach the developing brain what kind of world to expect. High maternal cortisol leads to epigenetic changes that prepare the baby for a dangerous environment, creating children more reactive to stress. This biological forecasting explains why babies born to highly stressed mothers often cry more, sleep less, and have difficulty self-soothing. Their nervous systems were calibrated for threats before birth. Father's stress matters too. Sperm carry stress memories. New research shatters the old belief that only maternal stress affects offspring. A father's chronic stress leaves epigenetic marks on his sperm that can influence his children's brain development. Stress alters small regulatory molecules in sperm called microRNAs that help control gene expression in the early embryo. These changes may increase risks for anxiety, autism, and schizophrenia in children. This means a man's stressful experiences in the months before conception could unknowingly shape his future child's mental health through these invisible biological messages carried in his sperm. The poverty stress cycle written in DNA. Children raised in poverty show distinct epigenetic patterns linked to stress response genes. But shockingly, these markers often appear in their DNA at birth, before any personal experience of hardship. This suggests parents living in stressful economic conditions pass on a biological adaptation to scarcity that may handicap their children's ability to thrive even if circumstances improve. The genes themselves don't change, but their expression becomes wired for survival and deprivation, potentially limiting cognitive and emotional development when environments become enriched. Stress eating and generational obesity. Your stress-driven food choices may affect your grandchildren's metabolism. Animal studies show when pregnant mothers experience stress and eat high-fat diets, not only their children but their grandchildren inherit a predisposition for obesity and metabolic disorders. The stress-nutrition combination creates epigenetic changes in genes regulating appetite and fat storage that transmit across generations. This reveals a disturbing pathway where today's stress eating could contribute to future generations' weight struggles through modified gene expression rather than just learned behaviors. Telomeres, stress stealing your children's cellular time. Telomeres are protective caps on chromosomes that shorten with age and stress. Remarkably, parents under chronic stress pass shorter telomeres to their children, potentially giving them cells that age faster from birth. This biological theft of cellular longevity means children of highly stressed parents may face earlier age-related health problems. The telomere damage from your stress becomes your child's biological inheritance, demonstrating how deeply stress etches itself into family biology across generations. Breaking the cycle, can we erase stress inheritance? The hopeful side of epigenetic research shows these stress-induced changes aren't necessarily permanent. Positive environments, good nutrition, and stress reduction techniques appear to help erase some negative epigenetic marks. Mindfulness practices in pregnant mothers have been shown to prevent some stress markers from transferring to babies. This means while we may inherit stress sensitivity from our parents, we also hold power to rewrite parts of this biological legacy for our children through conscious lifestyle changes and stress management before and during pregnancy. The ancestral shadow in your genes. Your stress response system carries echoes of your grandparents' struggles. Studies tracking families through generations show patterns of epigenetic markers corresponding to historical stresses like famines or migrations. This means your reaction to stress today may be partly shaped by challenges your ancestors faced decades ago. Your body remembers their hardships through these molecular annotations on your DNA, preparing you for threats that may no longer exist but keeping you biologically primed to expect them nonetheless. Stress during childhood, writing on still wet cement. Childhood stress causes particularly strong epigenetic changes because the brain is still developing. Traumatic experiences during sensitive periods can lock in stress response patterns that persist throughout life and may pass to future generations. This explains why abused children often grow into adults with mental health challenges and may parent children with similar issues. The biological memory of early stress echoes down family lines through these durable epigenetic modifications established during developmental windows. The biology of generational anxiety. Anxiety disorders often run in families, and epigenetics reveals why. Parents with anxiety tend to have epigenetic markers on genes related to fear response and threat detection. These modifications can transmit to children, giving them nervous systems hyperalert to potential danger. The child isn't simply learning anxious behaviors, they're born with a biologically amplified anxiety system. This explains why some children develop anxiety disorders despite loving, supportive parenting. Their stress response genes arrived pre-tuned to overreact. Resilience can be inherited too. The epigenetic story isn't all doomed. Positive traits can also pass between generations. Parents who develop healthy stress coping mechanisms may pass epigenetic patterns promoting resilience to their children. Stable, nurturing environments appear to create beneficial epigenetic marks that buffer against stress. This means the biological legacy you leave your children depends not on avoiding all stress, but on how you successfully manage and recover from life's inevitable challenges. The grandparent effect: stress skips generations. Some epigenetic changes from stress only appear in the second generation. Studies show grandchildren of individuals who endured severe childhood stress often show stronger epigenetic effects than their own parents. This delayed appearance suggests some stress modifications remain dormant in one generation only to re-emerge in the next. The mechanisms behind this generational skipping remain mysterious but reveal how stress echoes through family trees in complex, unpredictable patterns. Cultural trauma and biological memory. Entire communities that suffered historical trauma show shared epigenetic patterns. Descendants of enslaved people, genocide survivors, and oppressed populations often carry similar stress-related epigenetic markers. This suggests cultural trauma writes itself into biology at population levels, creating generational tendencies towards certain stress responses that persist long after the original events. These findings blur the line between personal and collective stress inheritance, showing how societal wounds can become biological realities passed through generations. Modern stressors creating future problems. Our current epidemic of chronic stress from work, technology overload, and social isolation is likely creating epigenetic changes that will affect coming generations. Unlike acute stressors our ancestors faced, today's unrelenting low-grade stress may be programming our descendants for maladaptive responses to modern life. This raises urgent questions about how contemporary stress management, or lack thereof, will shape the biological inheritance we leave our children through these subtle but powerful gene modifications. Wiping the epigenetic slate clean. Exciting research shows certain practices may help reset stress-related epigenetic marks. Regular exercise, meditation, and psychedelic-assisted therapy under professional guidance show promise in normalizing stress gene expression. Nutritional factors like folate and omega-3s appear to support healthy epigenetic regulation. While we can't completely erase all stress inheritance, we now understand we have more power than we thought to influence what biological messages we pass to our children through conscious lifestyle choices. The ethics of epigenetic responsibility. These discoveries create new moral questions about parental responsibility. While we can't eliminate all stress, understanding its transgenerational effects suggests managing our stress isn't just self-care, it's an act of care for future children. This doesn't mean blaming parents for children's challenges, but rather empowering prospective parents with knowledge that their stress management choices may have multi-generational benefits we're only beginning to understand fully. Hope beyond heredity, your power to change. The most hopeful message from epigenetic research is that while we inherit tendencies, we're not doomed by them. The same plasticity that allows stress to modify gene expression means positive changes can also rewrite our biological scripts. By understanding these mechanisms, we gain power to shape not just our own stress responses but potentially those of future generations, turning the science of stress inheritance into a story of resilience and hope for families facing mental health challenges. Thank you, and let's stay connected. Thank you for joining me on this journey of discovery. If you found this video valuable, imagine what you'll learn next. Subscribe to Wisdom Forge and hit the bell icon so you never miss more thought-provoking content, practical wisdom for everyday life, the tools to unlock your full potential. Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your biggest takeaway or what topics you'd like to see next. Until next time, keep growing, keep learning.